Hello and welcome to Civil Engineering 6440 Advanced Transportation Systems. My name is Brian Smith and I will be the instructor for the course, and I wanted to take some time here now to provide you with an overview of the course, and then also we will introduce you to the material in Unit 1. Right now what you're seeing is the Collab page for the course, and this is where all of the material and all of the interaction for the course will be. As you know, this is a desktop asynchronous course, so therefore it will be completely online. There will be no in-person course lectures or course meetings. All of our interaction and all the readings and all of the assignments will all take place through this Collab site. So let me go ahead and jump in here and kind of give you an orientation, and then we will move into the Unit 1 material. So looking here at the left provides you kind of a good navigational tools for the site. The syllabus is first, then you'll see each unit will pop up on the day the unit begins. So right now in your view you can only see Unit 1. At midnight on June 25th you'll see Unit 2 show up, etc. And each of these are lessons that will provide links to readings, to videos, to assignments, to discussion forums, etc. to guide you through that unit. As you scroll down further, all the assignments are listed here. Again, you will have pointers to these assignments in the units themselves. The discussion forums are also located here, resources, and you can see the rest. You can keep track with your grades here at the gradebook. So all of this is basically your home for the course and will help you throughout the semester. Let's take a quick look at the syllabus to give you an overview. I'll go ahead and open this up. And then we will kind of look at all the material on Collab. Again, this is CE 6440 Advanced Transportation Systems. In the past, this course has been named Intelligent Transportation Systems. We've made the change because there's a bigger amount of content in the course now on connected and automated vehicles, which is getting a little bit away from the classic definition of ITS. However, much of the material is still ITS, or Intelligent Transportation Systems, and you'll see that term used quite a bit throughout the course. My name here is Brian Smith. This is my physical office location. My email address here is as well. Also my phone number. The best way to get a hold of me is through email, and then if you do want to have a conversation, we can schedule a time to do that by phone or by Skype or something like that. I do encourage you, if you are on grounds at UVA this summer, or please do feel free to stop by my office to talk about things, but you certainly don't have to. This is set up to be a completely remote course. The next section talks about this being a desktop asynchronous course. One of the things it talks about here, which we'll focus on more later, is a real significance and importance of using the forum section. That is where all of our discussion can take place about the material in the class, and this is really where we are able to have more of the deep discussion and learning you have in a typical classroom environment online. And so I am expecting some very active participation in the forums for this semester. As I said earlier, the course's structure is a series of 7 week-long units. Each unit will consist of an introductory video like this one. There will be readings. Most of our readings will come from the online book called the ITS E-Primer. This is a free text that was developed by the U.S. Department of Transportation, so there is no required textbook to purchase for the class. The units will also have a number of forum discussions to participate in. There will be additional material. In 4 or 5 of the weeks, we will do a case study. Each week, starting in Unit 2, there will be student-authored application description videos, which we'll talk about here momentarily. And then at the end of each unit, you will be responsible for submitting a unit memo, which basically allows you to synthesize the information. Finally, and what you see here, this is really important to understand, the course is sequential and scheduled from a unit-by-unit basis. In other words, you need to complete each unit in the week in which it is assigned. So each unit will run from Monday morning at midnight through the next Sunday night at midnight. So you'll have a solid week for each unit, but all the material for each unit must be completed within that week. So you really can't get ahead or behind. You have to stay up with the week-by-week pace, and that's important from a discussion perspective for the course. There will be two projects, or two classes of projects. One will be the ITS Application Description Video and Discussion Lead, and the other will be an ITS Application Design Project. We will discuss both of these here in a moment when we look back at the Collab page. The grading is pretty simple. Each project is worth 20%. The case study performance in total is worth 20%. The unit memos in total are worth 20%. And finally, 20% of your grade will be my assessment of your level of contribution and participation in the discussion forums. This is really important, as you can tell. This if you don't take this seriously, it could really hurt you in terms of the grade for the class. So it is important, and the grade, the weighting reflects that. Finally, I do include a rough schedule. Not rough. This is the schedule for the units in the semester. And like I said, these will pop up week by week as we get to them throughout the semester. But you can look ahead a bit here on the syllabus. All right, so that's our syllabus. Let's look at Unit 1 to give you a sense of how units will work. And we'll also be able to introduce the assignments to you through this unit. So, my computer's a bit slow right now. Here we go, Unit 1. First, you will always have some readings, and these typically are readings from the ITS e-primer. So in Unit 1, you'll have Module 1 and Module 2 to read. We will also, in this unit, have some assignments. In this case, you have an assignment with the ITS Application Description Project and a case study assignment. There will also be a discussion forum that is part of the unit. And finally, at the end, you have to prepare the unit memo. Let's talk about the unit memo first. So here, the unit memo assignment, if we look at this document, this describes it to you. So you'll be completing 7 unit memos throughout the semester, 1 for each unit. And what you do is at the end of a unit, you prepare this memo, which is limited to two single-space pages using 12-point font. It can't go over 2. I would advise that you do use the full amount of space because there is a lot of material. The memo should have 3 sections. One is the content summary. What are the 3 most important contents that you learned from this unit and why? 2 is what are the opportunities that you see for future transportation development? What are 2 or 3 really high potential opportunities that you see based on what you've learned about in this unit? And 3, what are some barriers that you see to keep from realizing the potential for the opportunities that you identified in number 2? Again, these should all be pretty roughly equally weighted, so I wouldn't expect you're going to have a page and a half of content summary and only have a sentence or 2 for items 2 and 3. They really should all have roughly the same amount of space. So these will be due at the end of each unit. I would suggest this is something you should do at the end of the week, after you've done the reading, done the assignments, participated in the discussion forums. When all of it comes together, this is your chance to sit back and synthesize the material and prepare this unit memo. I will grade these. I'm not really grading right or wrong, but rather I'm grading for the depth of thought and analysis that you demonstrate in the documents. How much do you take the information, really synthesize it, and make something out of it? So that is the notion of the unit memo, and again, there will be 1 due for each unit at the end of each week. So if we go back to Unit 1, you also see we have a discussion forum. Each week there will be 2 discussion forums. The first unit there will actually only be 1. One of the discussion forums is on the unit itself. And in this discussion forum, I will post a number of questions or discussion topics that I expect everyone will respond to, and then respond to previous responses and basically create a discussion around these responses. So you see here for the first week I have 5 different topics. One is simple. It's a meet and greet. I want us to all get to know each other. So if you look here, if I click on this, it says let's introduce ourselves to each other. Please respond with your name, background, career goals, etc. And basically what you can do is hit reply, tell us about yourself. And if you have questions about what other people have said, maybe there's similarities, maybe you have some like interests, you can respond to that as well. This is just a way to get to know each other. The next conversation here, you'll see rapid advances of cyber physical systems and transportation. In this one, I want to talk about the fact that the e-primer we're using, this module was written 4 years ago. What do you think has changed since then? So If you go back here, you'll see there's, in this case, several conversations. Each one will also have a your questions and comments conversation. This is where I really would prefer that you post questions about the material, concerns about the class, any questions or comments you have about the class. I prefer it here as opposed to via email because your questions are probably going to be useful for other people in the class. So if it's a general question that's not a personal question, please do post it here so everyone can benefit from my response. I will be jumping in and out of the forum discussions all week, every week, to try to ask more questions, to push the conversation in different directions. But I really do expect this is something you're going to be participating in throughout each week, throughout each unit. This is not something to sit down on Sunday night at the end of a unit, post a couple of comments, and be done with it. This is something I really want you to be actively participating in from the Monday of the beginning of the unit all the way through Sunday of the end of the unit. I will be grading this. The grades are going to be based on two things, really. One is, are you actively participating? And two is, how much depth of thought are you showing? Are you just posting very superficial things, or are you really, trying to add, add depth to the conversation? All right, so that's the unit discussions. There will also be discussions on the ITS application videos, which I'll talk about next. Let me come back here to Unit 1, to the ITS Application Description Project. I'll go ahead and open up this assignment. So the idea of this one is that there are many actual ITS applications in use throughout the world right now, and it really helps to look at particular applications in depth and learn from those. So what I'm asking is each one of you pick one application, and I mean a particular system. It could be the traffic management system for Los Angeles, or it could be a connected vehicle model deployment in Tampa, something like that. And gather material and produce a 5-minute YouTube video on that application. You can borrow some video clips from other online videos. You can create your own video. You can use a PowerPoint slide and talk over it, however you like to do it. But I want a good, clear 5-minute presentation on that application. You'll see there's some more description here. Bottom line is I want you to produce this video and have it ready to post for your week, for your unit, by noon of the Monday of that unit. And you're going to post that to the Collab site, to that unit's lesson, and I'm giving you directions or instructions for how to do that on a YouTube video that is included here on the assignment. So that's the idea here, is you're going to get this video together and have it ready to be seen by your classmates at the very beginning of the unit that you are assigned to. At the same time, you also are to create a discussion topic or discussion questions to accompany this application. So I expect that you're going to prepare at least 4 new conversations, could be more if you'd like, to talk specifically about this. So you ask leading questions or ask guiding questions to get people in a conversation about the topic. And you see there are some very specific examples or specifications for how to name this discussion. It's also a responsibility to kick this off, like I said, on the Monday of the unit, and then also on a daily basis, every day, go in, look at the responses, look at the questions, and keep moving the discussion forward. We need to get this started right away, given the fast pace of the class. I've set up this Google document here. One of the things that you have to do this week in Unit 1 by Thursday, so just a few days from now, is I want you to go online, search for the application you want to do this project on, and then go to the Google Doc and then sign up for the unit you'd like to present in. You can present in Unit 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. There are 2 presentations per unit, so they go on a first-come, first-served basis. So sign up for that particular session or unit, and then tell me what you plan to prepare your application video on, have that ready to go. So that is something you have to really to work on immediately here as the class gets started. Again, once that gets started, there will be a video. There'll be 2 videos a week that you will need to watch as a student, and then participate in the discussion on as well. So this is something that you will both guide one, and then you will participate in the other ones of the other students. Okay, so that is the application description project. Going back to Collab, and you see here for the assignment, I have a link to a YouTube video that I prepared to help you understand how to post your video, how to post your discussion topics. And there's also, this is also the Google Doc link here as well. All right, going back to Unit 1, you will also, sorry, my computer is very slow today. In this unit, you also will have a case study to do. This one is pretty straightforward. There's a document that is attached that you need to complete for this National ITS Architecture case study. And again, you'll have case studies in 5 of the 7 module units to complete. And basically, you have the week to complete this one. So that's what you have to do for the first unit. Like I said, there also will be a video to watch here that I'm going to produce as part of this. This is part of, and you will have this available to read as well. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to talk to you about is let's go back to the list here for under assignments. There's also an ITS application design project that has 3 elements: the concept of operations, the requirements document, and technology recommendations. So let me open this up so you can see what this is about. So the idea for this project is for you to have the opportunity to design a new ITS application at a high level, to learn more about the technology and the systems engineering process that guides ITS development. And there will be 3 pieces of this. Well, actually 4. The first one is something you need to work on immediately and have delivered to me no later than the Tuesday of Unit 2. And that is to tell me what is the project that you are, or the application that you are proposing to develop in this project. So you can shoot me an email and basically say, I'm planning on developing a parking management system for the University of Virginia. And I can look at what you're going to do and kind of give you the okay, or perhaps try to steer you a little bit of a different direction to put you in a situation that you can be successful for this project. So that is something I need for you to get done, not at the end of this unit, by the beginning of the next Unit 2. Once you have that, the first step will be to develop a concept of operations. We'll talk about what these are here in Unit 1. But you'll develop a concept of operations for your application. That needs to be delivered at the end of Unit 3. You will then prepare a requirements document for your application, deliver that at the end of Unit 5. And finally, rather than developing a full detailed technical design, I'm looking for you to develop, basically provide technology recommendations for the application that will meet, you think, the requirements that you developed for this application design. This will be done at the end of the class for Unit 7. So this is the ITS application design project, which is going to be running along throughout the semester as well. Okay, so I think that covers all of the material now. So we've talked about the assignments, we've talked about the units. Again, this class, it is different. I've got really good feedback from the previous offering in terms of, if you stay actively involved, you can really learn a lot in a short amount of time. But it is very much up to you to keep actively involved in the forums, to keep up with the units. And I commit to you that I will be participating in the forums and move discussions along. I will turn around assignments as quickly as I can with grades so you get my feedback. And I think we will have a very good semester working together to learn about ITS. Okay, so with that, I'm going to close this part of the introductory video. We're next going to splice in some other video that talks about the ITS E-Primer and then introduces you to Modules 1 and 2 and the case study for Unit 1. To a discussion of that. And this is actually a presentation that is part of the E-Primer. You can get this directly from the website. And I'm not going to go over this in great detail, but I want to basically use this as a way to give you a quick introduction to the E-Primer. So again, this is something that was put together by the U.S. Department of Transportation. They run what they call a professional capacity building program under the ITS Joint Program Office. And this is really being done to help people like you others to understand what ITS is, because it is different than traditional transportation engineering. This is put together by Pat Noyes, who is a consultant in Boulder. Again, I will make this relatively quick and skip some slides to cover the main information, and you can certainly read this at your leisure. It is available. The PowerPoint file is available on the ePrimer website. So again, you see you're exactly the right audience for this. There are 14 modules. There are different people who authored each module. You'll certainly see that there's going to be some variety in terms of the content, how it's presented. But these do give you a good flavor for the overall area of ITS. So this first module you're going to see, in this unit you're going to do modules 1 and 2. The first module is kind of an introduction and helps you understand kind of what ITS is. And as you see here, applies information technology, system engineering to the management operation of surface transportation facilities. Again, I see ITS as using these more modern technologies, sensors, communications, software, automation, as a means to help us to make travel more efficient, more safe, more predictable, more reliable, and a better experience for users. So again, to try to actively manage this huge infrastructure that we have. I don't necessarily agree that it's a discipline. I think it's a particular type of approach to transportation solutions that requires multiple disciplines to be part of it. Again, you see here diverse disciplines together. Safety, efficiency, sustainability are all important. Again, the idea of it is not something necessarily to replace capacity enhancement, but rather something to make it more effective. So we'll talk about things like adaptive signal control. We'll talk about things like active traffic management. There are examples of all of this here in Virginia that we'll discuss this semester. It does include multiple modes, multiple types of facilities, whether we're talking arterials, highways, transit, etc. Again, the big challenges we faced is that we've had huge increases in the travel with relatively small increases in terms of the actual physical infrastructure. And that's a lot of what's led to ITS, is how do we, to use the old saying, how do we do more with less? Okay, the funding, there is concern. You've heard about this in the news, and we'll continue to hear about this, that we aren't investing enough in our infrastructure. One of the hopes is that ITS is perhaps a smarter investment, and it certainly is much less expensive than traditional capacity improvements. History of ITS, of course, one of the perhaps sad parts from my perspective is that I've been in my career has basically mirrored this history. I started working back in 1991, early in the ITS program, and I've been involved in this from the very beginning. So it's interesting that to see how it's evolved, and in many ways what we call ITS now is not new or revolutionary. It's simply kind of accepted practice in transportation. So let's see. I'm not going to do the poll questions. The National ITS Architecture, that'll be a lot of the second chapter in our case study. This is developed to basically guide deployment of ITS to try to ensure interoperability. One of the big issues in transportation is that you are not constrained geographically to one region or one city, and that what you have, your travel should work the same wherever you are, at least in this country. There's been work on standards, again, to try to make sure things plug and play well. I'm going to pass on this now since we'll have this in a moment. Okay. Just in terms of the ePrimer, just to give you a flavor for where we're going. These are the modules. We'll start with the introduction to ITS. You'll read about that. The second module, which we'll do this unit, will be looking at systems engineering. This is a little different, perhaps, than, I'm sorry, I'm moving this around, than I know some people in this class are systems engineering majors or in that program. This is a little bit more looking at technical systems engineering, the design of large-scale systems. A lot of the work that's done here at UVA in the systems engineering program tends to focus on systems analysis. It's similar, but some small subtle differences that you'll see. Third module that we'll address in the second unit is ITS and Transportation Management, kind of the traditional freeway management type systems. The fourth module will look at traffic operations. Again, traffic signals, freeway management, things of that nature. So the second week or second module will really focus on that piece, which is really probably you could consider one of the core areas in ITS. 5 looks at what they call personal transportation. A lot of this is about applications for an individual traveler to help them understand things like travel time, fares, things of that nature. Kind of, looking at not so much of I'm managing the system, but rather how do I help a user manage their trip. 6, we'll look at freight, intermodal, and commercial vehicle operations. A lot of applications in ITS are about how do we move freight more efficiently and more safely. 7, we'll look at public transportation. Again, a big area in ITS and how to use these technologies to make public transportation more efficient and more attractive to users. 8th is electronic tolling and pricing. This is becoming particularly important these days as we see more and more facilities are tolled. We hear discussion of things like VMT, vehicle miles traveled, taxes as opposed to the traditional fuel tax. So this is looking at the technology that underpins mobile collection of tolls and pricing. 9 will focus a little bit more on the technologies, the types of supporting technologies that are out there to support ITS. 10 will look at rural and regional applications. A lot of ITS has been at the urban level, but there are applications in the rural areas that are meaningful and significant. This module will focus on that. 11 looks at ITS from a sustainability perspective. 12 is focusing on institutional issues. The idea here is, in many ways, a system, the technology or technical approach to a system is one piece, but you have to look very carefully at the how the institutions, the agencies, the legal framework will allow or support the system's effectiveness. And finally, the last 2 will look at more emerging issues. One is connected vehicles. It's a very exciting area. We're doing a lot of work in here at UVA. We'll talk about that. And 14, a lot of it we'll talk about is autonomous vehicles, which have just exploded in recent years and have huge implications on what we're talking about in ITS. So that's the basic outline for the ITSE primer and, frankly, the course. There are lots and lots of resources out there. I'm giving you a lot already for each unit. There are many more if you'd like to look at that. These are some examples here. I'm going to, at this point, move on to the case study. So that gives you a quick introduction to the class. Now let's talk about the case study. And this first case study is going to be about the National ITS Architecture. Again, I'm not going to use this entire presentation. You're going to have materials available to you and an exercise for this case, but I just want to give you a quick introduction. So here we go. So I'm going to go over this presentation. The take-home exercise is posted in your assignment for the unit. That is something you're going to do in teams of 2 or 3 people, and I've actually assigned the teams to get things started. And then we will be able to debrief this work. So the exercise you're looking at is actually going to be kind of a college town type of exercise where the idea is that you're working with the ITS architecture to create a system to support movement of traffic during major events, in this case at University Football Stadium. This is something that certainly is an issue here in Charlottesville for football games, basketball games, major events in the university's facilities. You're going to play the role as a city traffic engineer. What are you going to do? You're going to look at how you take the systems that you want to create for this new application, map them to the ITS architecture, and you'll be exposed to what that is. You'll then map services, define the project, plan the project, and evaluate evaluate the project. So again, this is basically the steps you'll walk, that the exercise will walk you through. Again, we do this. Some of these slides now are based on the content I presented earlier, so I'm going to skip these. But again, these are the reasons behind the development of ITS. So again, definition. One of the places where ITS began was in incident management, with the idea that when you have some disruption in capacity, it could be unplanned like a crash, it could be planned like a major event. We need to use our resources to actively manage that and to try to restore capacity as quickly as possible. There are systems out there that are great examples. The example they're providing here is a Georgia Navigator system. This is the Transportation Management System or Center for the Atlanta region, where they're looking at monitoring roadways, managing incidents, interacting with emergency agencies, and pushing out information to the public and authorities so that people can make as informed decisions as possible in terms of their travel. Again, this is a classic example here of what, for example, Georgia Navigator might look like, with operators working with the data they receive. And these are some of the field devices you see changeable message signs, cameras, signals, in-vehicle devices. Again, all of these things being used to try to actively manage traffic. So the issue with the architecture is, what we were seeing early in ITS, and I can attest to this, is that every region was developing a system that was unique and not necessarily interoperable. And one of the thoughts was we need to define an architecture so that we can help regions or cities, what have you, develop ITS systems that fit together, that benefit from commonalities in terms of cost, etc. So this architecture was developed based on that. And again, here you see it's a framework to help you create ITS systems. It's a functional representative of ITS. It's focusing on what you do, not how you do it. And that's important because the technology is constantly changing. What's important from a transportation professional is what you accomplish, and then you can look at technically the right ways of going about it. So again, within the architecture, you're looking at this organizations proposing, operating things, what systems are out there, what functions are performed, how communications take place, and what data moves. Architecture subsystems basically identify major systems and functionality, and typically these subsystems are centers, field devices, the vehicles themselves, or travelers themselves. These are the individual pieces of ITS, you could say. And within a center subsystem, there are different types. There's transit management centers, there's toll administration centers, etc. So in many cases, one of the challenges with ITS is for these systems or subsystems to work together. Field subsystems, the roadway, monitoring, could be cameras, could be vehicle detectors. You can see all the different possible field subsystems here. Vehicle subsystems, the actual commercial vehicles or trucks, transit vehicles, maintenance and construction vehicles. These are sometimes the ones that are operated by a DOT to help stranded motorists. So again, these could be a personal vehicle onto more specialized vehicles operated by agencies. Traveler subsystems, again, I as a traveler using my smartphone, using the internet with a computer, kiosks, all these sorts of things. Could be a variable message sign, how, the way that I interact with the system. So again, back to the Georgia example, we have field devices here. They interact with the center subsystem. And then we can use the entire architecture to put this all together. There are information flows defined within the architecture that help you think about how information flows from one subsystem to the next. So for example, here you see a weather service is pushing weather information to a traffic management subsystem, which then can push this information to emergency management agencies, but also collect information from emergency management subsystems about where incidents have occurred. For the architecture, there are services. A service package contains pieces of the architecture that provide a particular ITS service to address a transportation need. So in this case, a service package from the architecture could be transit vehicle priority, where transit vehicles send information to the roadway to provide the green light, a green signal, to transit vehicles that are behind schedule. So that this example here is a transit signal priority service that you would work with. And you see here the flows that correspond. So again, we go from the needs to the services, and then you can bundle these services together to actually deploy a project for a region. Again, one of the things that's really important in ITS is collecting data about the performance of the system and to be able to conduct evaluations. Okay. So, with all this being said, there's lots of tools available to you you can use in the case study, and other times there's the ITS architecture website you see here. There's standards websites. There's what they call turbo architecture, which is kind of a smaller, easier to use tool to help you work with architecture. You might very well think about using this for your projects. So I think that is, so again, from the case study, what we're trying to do here in the case study is to give you a feel for ITS, how to apply it to a particular problem, and use the architecture as a tool. Okay, so that is it. Now let's go back to the unit, and you'll see here I gave you a link to the architecture case study website. Here's the actual assignment you're going to be working on. I'll click on this here, and it will take me to that assignment. And you'll see there's two documents. First is the actual exercise. And this exercise will walk you through this particular use of the architecture to support the traffic management center for the particular stadium event management system. So you see here, these are and I'm not going to read this to you now, but you'll see that it gives you resources in the field that you have available. And then basically what it's asking you to do is go through and define which systems are in the project, status, the organization, the subsystem matching. It will walk you through step by step using the architecture to design this system. So all you have to do is to basically go through, complete the exercise, enter the information into the document, and then once that's done, you will deliver it here through the assignment feature of Collab. Now, this is something I think is much better done in a team as opposed to by yourself. So I've gone ahead and assigned you teams for this case study, and you can find the team assignment right here in the assignment. And you'll see here I've just randomly gone in here at this point and matched you up. Almost all the teams are 2 people, but there is one team. Team 1 has 3. You'll see here the names of your teammates and email. Now the email I have right now is just your UVA address. I do understand there are some people who are taking the course who probably don't use UVA email as their primary email. I would ask if you would let me know what the email is you prefer to use, and I will try to make sure and include that in future information. So again, I'm going to leave it up to you to interact with your teammate. Could be in person, could be online, and work together to complete this particular case study. Okay, so going back to the unit, I think we now have covered everything, and you should be prepared to complete the unit. I've introduced the E-Primer, your textbook, and there's a lot of material to read about in chapters 1 and 2, or I should say modules 1 and 2. There is the architecture case study you're going to complete, and that is a link to the case study website, and then this is a link to your actual assignment. I do want you this week to pick your application description topic and to sign up for that so that we can begin those next week and next unit. So please do make sure that's done. You'll have to complete a unit memo for this week. and deliver it here in Collab. And finally, I'm going to expect that you participate in the Unit 1 discussion. So that's the work for this week. I hope it goes well. Please don't hesitate to email me with questions or concerns, and do get this material done so that we're in position for next week on June 19th to begin Unit 2. Thank you very much.